Hello all, BowTieSecurityGuy here, live from the shop. Um, I was having a conversation with someone this evening while I was working on a project. I do mentoring at really weird times where like someone will message me and they'll be struggling and I'll just jump on while I'm sanding something or just working on a project in the shop. Um, and they really were distraught because they're starting to realize what I think a lot of people are starting to find out, which is the whole cyber job shortage or cyber job gap is just not real. There's not a cyber job shortage. I wish there was, and I wish we were flush with money and we could just hire a bunch of people. This kind of lie, because there's really nothing else I can call it, is really pushed by schools and other educations to sell you a degree. I've talked to so many people who they're like, well, I was basically told, like, when I got out of school, if I did all these things and did exactly what I was supposed to do and graduated, that I'd be able to walk into a job at six figures. That is incredibly, incredibly rare. Many people think that they can walk into a job at six figures and it's going to be full remote. That's basically hitting the lottery. Most entry level roles are not going to be remote. You're going to have to move. You're going to be working overnights. You're going to be working terrible hours, and it's going to be hard, right? So don't get into the mindset of this perfect kind of situation where you get the perfect job, because the reality is you're probably not going to get a perfect job. Instead, take any opportunity in technology. Don't just focus on cyber. If you get an opportunity to go work in networking, go work in networking. I will tell you right now, as an incident responder, as somebody who's done, cyber work my whole, like, for the last almost 10, 15, 20 years now, you're going to use networking knowledge and all of the things that you've learned a lot. And it's something that's going to be very common to what you do, especially during an investigation, understanding how networks operate, understanding how data transfers, and even just a simple thing like understanding what a PCAP log should look like versus an anomaly, right? Those are the things where you can find those really weird needles in the haystack. Maybe you're part of a hunt team that's looking for different stuff. But I don't want you to get in your mindset that you wasted your money or you're never going to succeed. You will. It's just not going to be in the way that you imagined. You're going to grow in a different way and you're going to learn things in a different way than you had anticipated. Many of you get your hopes set on like an incident response role or an IR role because they're super cool, they're flashy. I've done both. Or a pen testing role. Yeah, not IR and incident response, those are the same thing. So you get your heart set on those, but man, those are incredibly rare. Most companies do not have a dedicated incident response team. Most companies do not have a dedicated red team. It's actually quite rare. Majority of your Fortune 500s have them, but there's a good 30 or 40% of them who just give it to an MSP and the MSP handles it. Or they just carry really good liability insurance. That's also a thing that some companies do. They gamble. But if you're chasing those roles, those very specific roles, they're going to be very hard to find. I always tell people try to go into like a GRC or an audit type role or vulnerability management. Those are the non-flashy areas that nobody really wants to go to. Because they're boring and they're not cool and you can't tell people you're a professional hacker for a living. I will let you in on a secret right now. Most of security is boring, repetitive work. And I'm not saying that to bum you out or dissuade you. I'm just saying a lot of your job is going to be writing, reading, and analyzing. that's the role. And you're going to do it over and over and over again, even knowing that the results are going to be the same in many cases. So get used to that repetitive task. If you're a pen tester, get used to testing APIs, because majority of applications are front-end GUIs and back-end APIs. Look, I'm not trying to dissuade you from this field, but I'm just trying to destroy the false impressions that you've created about this market, about what the job is actually like. That way you go into this eyes open and you can actually not be discouraged when it's not exactly what you dreamed of. I've talked to so many people who've gotten into cyber, who finally have made it, and then they just feel so discouraged because the job is nothing like what they thought it was going to be. They're like, I thought I'd be fighting hackers real time. Well, I mean, in incident response, a lot of your job is validating false positives. And yeah, it's cool when you get to fight attackers real time. There's no better rush, and it was some of the coolest jobs I've ever done is fighting hackers real time. But it's also pretty rare. You're not going to do it that often. A lot of your time is going to be spent educating, looking for anomalies, reading logs, checking alerts, and just finding ways to fill your time if you're on a dedicated incident response team. But again, it's rare. Most teams are like, this guy does all our network firewall stuff, and he also does our incident response stuff. It's very common for people to wear multiple hats and to get to a point where they're basically doing multiple jobs in replacing multiple roles within the organization because, they got a guy who already does security. They got a guy who does patching. Most organizations don't need a bunch of fancy stuff. So don't get in your mind security is a specific way. Instead, just be open. Be open to learning, be open to new opportunities, and basically take any opportunity within technical. Know that you're going to be paid anywhere between $35,000 to maybe at a max $85,000. If you're incredibly, incredibly talented and you're like top of the top, maybe 110. But it's going to be pretty rare. Even your like FANG organizations are not paying as much as they used to because they don't have to. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who are out of work, who are super talented, and there are thousands of people who graduate every single month. Your average entry-level role gets thousands of applications, and they are open very rarely with zero experience. So take time, set expectations correctly. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen immediately. It took me 10 years to get into cyber, and I did, 10 years in technology or more than that, just to kind of prove my worth. And finally, when I don't believe in luck, right? I believe in when opportunity meets preparedness, that's when cool stuff happens, right? So if you put yourself out there, you continue to do work, you continue to volunteer, you continue to meet with people, you shake hands, and you go to all of these different meetups and different things, you will find opportunities. But I promise you, they're not going to be that dream job right out the gate. And if they were, how fun would that be? The coolest part about chasing a dream is when you finally get it. I know. I worked at Disney for almost 20 years. I had my dream job, and it was absolutely amazing. I got to a bunch of cool stuff. But it was a very long journey. It was 10 years of struggle to get into cyber at Disney. So don't get discouraged if 3 months into your college career, you're like, or out of college, you're like, why can't I find it? There's just not a lot of opportunity out there. And when there is an entry-level role, it's almost guaranteed going to a friend or a friend of a friend or someone they know. That's all I got. Hope you have a good night. Good luck out there.